Story 1. The wake-up call that wasn't for guests. I worked overnight at a small business hotel that mostly served conference people. Quiet weekdays, louder weekends. The front desk had an old switchboard, the kind that still supported wake-up calls through the system. You could schedule them by room number, and the hotel would auto-call the room at whatever time. The night manager who trained me was very specific about one thing. Don't schedule wake-up calls manually unless a guest asks. If you do it wrong, it messes up billing and you get yelled at. The first time it happened, I thought it was just a guest being weird. At 2:05 a.m., the console beeped and displayed. Wake-up call completed. Room 214, 2:05 a.m. I blinked. No one schedules wake-up calls at 2:05. And completed meant the guest picked up. I checked 214 in the system. Vacant. Not checked in. No keycards issued. I told myself the system log was delayed. Maybe it was showing something from earlier. I cleared it and went back to my paperwork. At 2:13 a.m., it happened again. Wake-up call completed. Room 214, 2:13 a.m. This time, I pulled up the room's call history. It showed outgoing calls from the PBX to 214, and it showed answered. I called the room from the desk phone. It rang once, then went dead. No voicemail, no busy tone. Just a silent hang. I tried again. Same. I walked to the back office and asked the older night auditor, Kay, if the phone line in 214 was down. Kay didn't answer immediately. She stared at my screen. Then she said very quietly, "Don't call that room." I laughed because that sounded like superstition. "Why not?" I asked. Kay's eyes didn't move. "Because it answers," she said. I felt my stomach tighten. "What do you mean it answers?" I asked. Kay sighed like she was tired of explaining. "That room was a storage room years ago," she said. "They renovated it into a guest room, but the phone system never liked it. If it starts logging wake-up calls, don't interact. Just let it run." "That doesn't make sense," I said. Kay looked at me finally. "None of it does," she said. "But it stops faster if you don't give it attention." I should have listened. At 2:21 a.m., the console beeped again. Wake-up call scheduled. Room 214, 2:44 a.m. I hadn't touched anything. Kay's face went pale. "It's picking times now," she whispered. 2:44, I said. "That's later." Kay grabbed a pen and wrote 2:44 on a sticky note, like she was marking a bomb timer. "Whatever happened," she said, "don't go upstairs at 2:44. I tried to laugh again. It didn't come out right. At 2:44 a.m., the lobby got colder. Not dramatically, but enough that the back of my neck prickled. The console beeped. Wake-up call in progress. Room 214. We watched the status indicator. Ringing. Ringing. Then answered. The console displayed. Wake-up call completed. Kay exhaled shakily. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, it's done." Then the desk phone rang. Caller ID, 214. I didn't answer. Kay didn't answer. The phone rang and rang, loud in the empty lobby. Then it stopped. A second later, the phone rang again. Caller ID, 214. Kay's hand shook. "Don't," she mouthed. I watched the phone like it might move. After the third ring, the call cut off. Silence held. Then, softly, from the hallway behind the front desk, where the staff-only corridor led to the service elevator, we heard a phone ring. Not the desk phone. A ring echoing from deeper inside the building. Kay's face went tight with fear. "That's the service phone," she whispered. The service phone was mounted near the service elevator for maintenance crews. It wasn't connected to guest room extensions. It was internal only, and it was ringing. We listened as it rang exactly 3 times and stopped. Then, from the service corridor, a voice said calmly, "Wake up." It sounded like a person standing just out of sight, speaking normally. Kay grabbed my wrist. "Back office," she whispered. We shut the back office door and turned off the lights. The lobby stayed quiet. No footsteps, no banging. Just a steady hum from the vending machines. And then at 2:52 a.m., the console printed a final message. Wake-up call completed, front desk. 2:52 a.m. Kay stared at it and whispered, "It tried to wake us." The next morning, when the day manager arrived, I asked about room 214. He said, "We don't have a 214. Then he corrected himself, like he'd accidentally acknowledged something. "We don't rent 214, he said, eyes on the floor. "Just don't schedule anything to it." That night, I didn't come back, because the system didn't glitch once. It followed a pattern, and patterns are how you train something to return. Story 2, the lost and found bag. It was still warm. This was at a downtown hotel, where I worked weekends as overnight security. The lobby had a lost and found cabinet behind the front desk. The rule was simple. Anything found gets a tag, a date, and a brief description. Anything valuable goes into a lockbox. Anything perishable gets tossed. One Sunday at 3:10 a.m., I did a standard sweep of the lobby and saw a duffel bag by the main entrance, leaning against the wall like someone set it down and forgot it. It looked clean, not abandoned trash clean, like a person actually owned it and cared about it. No tag, no note. I checked cameras. The entrance feed showed nothing unusual, just the automatic doors opening and closing occasionally from wind. I picked up the bag. It was heavy and warm. It was inside recently warm. Warm like something living had been pressed against it. My skin prickled. I carried it behind the desk and put on the counter. The warmth radiated through the fabric. I unzipped a few inches, expecting laundry or tools. Inside was a hotel towel, folded neatly. That was it, just one folded towel. I stared at it. I reached in and touched the towel. It was warmer than the bag, like it had been wrapped around someone. I pulled the towel out and set it on the counter. Underneath it, there was nothing else. Empty duffel. No clothes. No toiletries. No wallet. No ID. Just a towel, folded too perfectly. I grabbed a tag and wrote, "Duffel bag, towel. Found at entrance, 3:10 a.m. Then the lobby doors opened by themselves. I looked up. No one came in. The doors closed again. Then the camera monitor flickered, just for a second. And for that second, the entrance feed showed someone standing just outside the doors. A person-shaped dark silhouette, too still. Then the feed went normal. Empty sidewalk. My mouth went dry. I looked back at the towel. There was a faint imprint on it now, like pressure marks had formed from something recently lying under it. A shoulder shape, a head shape, and then, this is the part one can't explain cleanly, the towel shifted slightly. Not dragged, not blown, shifted like it settled, like someone inside it breathed out. I stepped back from the counter. The duffel bag zipper moved, just a centimeter. A slow pull, like fingers on the inside. I didn't touch it. I didn't go closer. I picked up my radio and called the night manager upstairs. No answer. I called security dispatch. Static. Then my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Put it back. I stared at the text, confused. Then another message. You took it from the door. I felt my throat tighten. The lobby doors opened again. No one came in, but I heard something outside, a soft scraping on concrete, like a bag being dragged. I looked at the camera monitor. The entrance feed showed the sidewalk empty, but the sound continued, slow, patient, like something was approaching the doors, even though the doors didn't show anyone there. I made the decision quickly. I carried the duffel back to the entrance and set it exactly where I found it. I didn't unfold the towel. I didn't zip the bag. I just put it back. The moment I let go, the warmth vanished, as if someone stood up. The automatic doors opened. And this time, the camera feed showed the silhouette clearly, standing right at the threshold, just outside the glass. It didn't enter. It just stood there. Then the doors closed again, and the silhouette was gone. When I checked the spot a minute later, the duffel bag was gone too. The next morning, I asked housekeeping if anyone had reported a missing bag. They said no, but when I checked the lost and found cabinet, my tag was there, neatly filed, despite me never placing in the cabinet, and the date on it had changed. It read, found 3:10 a.m., returned 3:11 a.m., like the hotel itself logged the exchange. Story 3. The guard tour that completed itself. This was at a corporate building where the night shift guard had to do tour checkpoints, little RFID stations mounted in stairwells and hallways. You'd carry a scanner, tap each checkpoint, and the system would confirm you completed the round. The building had 12 floors, plus a basement. The tour had 14 checkpoints total. Lobby, loading dock, basement stairwell, and a few random corridors on upper floors. It was repetitive and annoying, but that was the point. They wanted proof you were moving. The first night I worked there, the supervisor told me, if a checkpoint fails to scan, don't force it. Just log it and move on. He also said one odd thing. Never scan the basement checkpoint twice. I asked why. He shrugged. System issue, he said. On my second week, at 3:03 a.m., I scanned the basement checkpoint and the scanner beeped normally. I climbed back up and finished the rest of my round. When I returned to security office, I docked the scanner. The system showed tour completed 3:11 a.m. That was normal. Then a second line appeared beneath it, like a delayed upload. Tour completed 3:11 a.m. Tour completed 3:11 a.m. 2 completions. Same timestamp. I stared, thinking the software duplicated a line. Then it printed out a report automatically. A physical paper slip from the small printer. It listed every checkpoint. All scanned. Then it listed them again. All scanned. Except the basement checkpoint was listed a third time. Basement stairwell, 3:03 a.m. Basement stairwell, 3:03 a.m. Basement stairwell, 3:03 a.m. My stomach tightened. I checked the scanner history on the device. It showed only one scan. So the system logged extra scans that the device didn't show. I wrote it off as software error and went back to watching cameras. At 3:18 a.m., the camera feed for the basement stairwell flickered. And for a second, I saw a person standing at the basement checkpoint, holding the same scanner, wearing the same security jacket, standing in the exact posture I stand in when I'm scanning. The image was grainy, but it was close enough to make my skin crawl. Then the feed went normal. Empty stairwell. My throat went dry. I rewound the footage. The moment was gone, as if the flicker hadn't been recorded, like it was only visible live. At 3:20, my desk phone rang. Caller ID displayed the building's internal line, but the extension number was wrong. It was 1 digit longer than any internal extension should be. I didn't answer. The phone rang exactly twice and stopped. Then the tour printer spit out another slip without me touching anything. Tour in progress. 3:21 a.m. My heart hammered. The printer continued. Basement stairwell. 3:21 a.m. Then another line. Basement stairwell. 3:21 a.m. Then basement stairwell. 3:21 a.m. 3 times again. Then the slip printed. Tour completed. 3:29 a.m. I sat frozen because I hadn't left the chair, and yet the system insisted the tour had been completed again. I checked the cameras. On the lobby camera, the elevator doors opened. Empty. Closed. On the stairwell camera, nothing. On the hallway cameras, nothing. But the tour system had proof someone did the work. I remembered what the supervisor said. Never scan the basement checkpoint twice, because maybe scanning wasn't proof you were moving. Maybe it was a way of teaching the building what your route looks like. And once it learned your route, it could perform it without you, At 3:31, the office door handle turned gently. Just a test. The door was locked. A calm voice from the other side said, "Tour complete." It sounded like me. I didn't answer. I stared at the logbook and wrote nonsense lines until daylight. I quit the next day. A month later, I ran into the supervisor at a gas station. He looked exhausted. "Did you ever get those duplicate tours fixed?" I asked. He stared at me and said, "They weren't duplicates." Then he got in his car and left. Story 3. If a vacant room calls you by name, what do? Imagine you're alone at a hotel front desk at 2:30 a.m. The lobby is clean, quiet, and bright in that way hotels are at night. Too bright for how empty it feels. The elevators are closed. The hallway cameras show nothing. And then the desk phone rings. The caller ID says room 407. You check the system. 407 is vacant. No check-in, no key cards, no credit card on file. The room is supposed to be empty. So here's the question. What would you do? Would you answer anyway, just to be professional? Or would you let it ring because you know the caller ID shouldn't exist? I answered because night shift makes you obedient. Front desk. I said, using the same tone I use for every call. Calm, neutral, helpful. For a second, there was only silence. Then I heard breathing, very light, like someone holding the receiver close, but not speaking yet. "Hello," I said. A voice finally spoke, quiet and tired. "My key doesn't work." The voice sounded normal. That's what got me. No distortion. No whispering demon voice. Just a guest who sounded irritated and sleepy. "Okay," I said, "because this is a hotel and keys fail all the time. What's your name, sir?" A pause. Then the voice said, "You already know." My stomach tightened. "I'm sorry." The voice exhaled softly. "You looked me up," it said. "You're looking right now." I froze, because I was looking right now at the screen, at the vacancy status, at the empty guest name field. "I can send someone up," I said. And even as I spoke, I knew it was a mistake, because there was no someone. Overnight, it was just me and the night auditor in the back office. The voice lowered. "Don't come up," it said. "Just bring the master key to the stairwell door." I stared at the phone. "Which stairwell?" I asked without thinking. The line went silent again. Then the voice said my name. Not my employee name tag. My real first name. Quietly, like we'd met before. My throat went dry. "How do you?" Click. The call ended. I sat there staring at the desk phone, like it had moved on its own. Then I did what any scared person does. I looked for a rational explanation. Maybe the PBX system glitched and displayed the wrong extension. Maybe someone dialed out using an old phone line. Maybe it's a prank. I pulled up the call history in the system. It showed an internal call from 407 to the front desk at exactly 2:31 a.m. Then, under it, another line appeared, as if the system had corrected itself. 407, status, not connected. Not connected? I called the night auditor, Reggie, to the front desk. He was older, calm, the kind of person who'd seen everything and was tired of all of it. "Room 407 called me," I said. Reggie didn't laugh. He didn't even look surprised. He just stared at the call log, then at the occupancy screen. "Did you answer?" he asked. "Yes," I said. Reggie's jaw tightened. "Did it tell you to come up?" he asked. I hesitated. "It told me not to," I said. "It told me to bring a master key to the stairwell." Reggie looked at me like I confessed to something. "Okay," he said, slow. "Listen carefully. Do not go to 4. Do not take keys out of the drawer. And if the phone rings again, you don't answer." "What is it?" I whispered. Reggie didn't answer directly. He just said, "You're new, so you think the building is empty at night. It isn't." That should have been enough to make me stop. But the part of my brain that hates loose ends kept moving. I checked the cameras for the fourth floor hallway. Empty carpet. Closed doors. Exit sign. No motion. I checked the stairwell camera on the fourth floor. Empty concrete steps. No movement. I checked the elevator camera. The elevator interior was empty. Everything looked normal. Then, very softly, the elevator in the lobby dinged. The doors opened. No one stepped out. The doors stayed open. Reggie grabbed my wrist hard enough to hurt. "Don't look at it," he whispered. But I did. Not directly, not like a bold person. More like a nervous person who can't stop checking. Inside the elevator car, the light was off. It was a dark rectangle in a bright lobby. Then the desk phone rang again. "Caller ID, 407. Reggie shook his head, firm. "No." The phone rang 6 times and stopped. Silence returned. And then the elevator dinged again. Door still open, still dark. A soft sound reached us from the lobby itself. Faint footsteps on tile. Reggie's face tightened. He pulled me backward into the back office and shut the door. We stood there with the lights off, listening. Footsteps moved across the lobby, slow, unhurried, like someone who knew exactly where they were going. They stopped right outside the back office door. A pause. Then the door handle turned gently, testing. Locked. Silence. Then a voice on the other side of the door said, "Calm and close. Front desk." My own voice. Not perfectly, but close enough that my stomach flipped. Reggie held his breath. I could feel his fear in the way he stood too still. The voice continued. "It's okay," it said. "I just need the key." The handle turned again. Not harder, just patient, like it had all night. Reggie leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Don't answer. Don't move. Don't give a reaction." And here's the part that still sits in my chest when I think about it. The voice outside didn't sound angry. It sounded reasonable, like a coworker taking over a shift. "You're tired," it said softly. "Let me handle it." The handle stopped turning. Then, from somewhere in the lobby, the elevator doors finally closed. A few seconds later, the footsteps walked away, slowly, like someone leaving because they'd gotten what they needed. Proof that we heard them. At 3:04 a.m., the back office phone printed a small system receipt. Something it never does unless there's a maintenance ticket. One line. "Room 407. Master key requested. Approved." Reggie stared at it, then tore it off and crumpled it. "Write no incidents in the log," he said quietly. I swallowed. "But..." "And oh," he said sharper, then softer. "If you write it down, you're making it official." In the morning, I checked the system again. Room 407 was still vacant. Still no guest name. Still no key cards. But now it showed, "Do not disturb," active, and under service requests, one item sat there with a timestamp. Extra towels, 2:31 a.m. I didn't work another shift there. Because the scariest part wasn't the call. It was how normal the request sounded. Like it had learned the easiest way to get close to you isn't to scare you. It's to make you feel responsible. Story 4. If the camera shows you outside, while you're still inside, what would you believe? Imagine you're in a guard booth at the back of a corporate lot. One door, one heater, 6 camera feeds, and a logbook that expects you to prove you stayed awake. Now imagine this. You look up at the monitor and see a person standing at the gate keypad. You zoom in. It's you. Same jacket. Same stance. Same head tilt. Like the camera is showing a reflection, except the gate is 50 yards away and you're sitting in the booth. So what do? Do you run outside to check? Or do you stay inside because stepping out is exactly what something wants? This started for me as a simple delay. At around 3 a.m., the gate camera lagged by a second or two. You could tell because cars would arrive on one feed first and then appear on the gate feed late. I reported it. My supervisor shrugged. Old equipment. Then one night, the lag became selective. At 3:18 a.m., the gate camera froze for half a second and then resumed. But the resumed image didn't match reality. On the screen, under the gate light, a figure stood at the keypad, hands in pockets, watching the booth. I looked up through the booth window. The gate was empty. I looked back at the monitor. The figure was still there, watching. I leaned closer to confirm details I didn't want to confirm. The figure's jacket had the same reflective strip mine had. The same shoulder seam tear I'd noticed 2 days earlier. My throat tightened. Then the figure lifted one hand and waved slowly. Not friendly, not urgent, just acknowledging. My skin went cold because I understood something immediately. It wasn't trying to break in. It was trying to be seen. I forced myself to look away. When I looked back, it was closer to the camera, like it had moved during the seconds I refused to watch. I sat very still. I didn't call anyone. I didn't step outside. I watched the clock until the minute changed, like time itself could reset the feed. At 3:21, the camera snapped back to normal. Empty gate, as if nothing happened. The next night, it happened again, same time window, same feed. Only this time, the figure wasn't at the keypad. It was halfway between the gate and the booth. Closer, facing me, and the angle of its head, this is hard to explain, looked like it was listening, not just looking. Listening, like it could hear me breathe through glass. I stopped watching the gate feed after 3 a.m. I focused on other cameras, did my patrol quickly, returned to booth, and kept the door locked. That's what you do when you think avoidance is safety. On the 6th night, at 3:18 a.m., the booth door handle turned gently. I hadn't heard footsteps. The lot outside was empty. The door was locked. The handle turned again, like someone testing patient. I didn't move. Then a knock on the glass. 1 knock. Pause. 2 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. Like someone practicing a pattern they wanted me to learn. Then a voice outside, calm. Open up. It sounded like me. Not perfectly, but close enough that I felt my face go hot, like embarrassment mixed with fear. I didn't answer. The voice continued, softer. I'm cold, it said. Let me in. The heater inside my booth hummed weakly. My breath fogged the glass. The handle turned again. Not violently. Patiently. And then the worst part. The voice changed from pleading practical. You're tired, it said. You can sleep. I can do your rounds. That offer, sleep, is what made my stomach drop. Because it wasn't threatening me. It was trying to replace me gently. I grabbed my phone to call my supervisor. Before I could press anything, my phone lit up. Incoming call unknown. It rang once, then stopped. Immediately, my phone displayed a voicemail notification, like someone left a message without the call being answered. Then the booth radio crackled, and my own voice came through, quiet and close. Copy. I froze. The voice continued through the radio speaker. Tour in progress. Those weren't words we used. That was the system language from another job. The booth handle stopped turning. Outside, the night went silent. Then all 6 camera feeds switched, on their own, to the gate camera in full screen. The figure filled the monitor now, standing so close to the gate camera lens that its face was just shadow and pale shape. It leaned forward slightly, and then it spoke silently, lips moving just enough that I could read it. Look at me. I didn't. I stared at my hands and wrote meaningless lines in the logbook so I could keep my body doing something. At 3:27, the door handle stopped. The cameras returned to normal. When the day guard arrived, I asked if anyone had come by the booth. He laughed and said, "No." I quit the next day. A week later, my supervisor called me out of nowhere. He sounded exhausted. "Did it ever show you finishing your shift?" he asked. My throat went tight. "What do you mean?" He hesitated. "Like you leaving," he said, "like it took over." I didn't answer. He exhaled quietly and said, "Okay, thanks." Then he hung up. And I realized the creepiness wasn't the figure outside. It was the idea that the system could mark you as done even if you never left. Story 6. If the hotel service elevator opens to a floor that doesn't exist, would you step in? Imagine you're a night security guard in a downtown hotel. Not a cheap place. Polished floors, keycard elevators, cameras everywhere. The kind of building that's supposed to be controlled. Now imagine the service elevator opens in the basement, doors sliding apart, and there's no light inside, just darkness. No one comes out, and the elevator display reads a floor number your building doesn't have. What would you do? Would you step in to check? Or would you stand there and pretend you didn't see it? My supervisor told me a rule on my first night. If the service elevator opens by itself, you don't step inside, not even to hit close. You let it close on its own. He said it like a policy, not a ghost story. I laughed politely because I didn't want to seem difficult. He didn't laugh back. The first time it happened, it was small, 1:11 a.m. Service elevator arrived at lobby and opened. Interior light off. Door stayed open too long. Then closed. I watched it on camera. Told myself it was a sensor. The second time, it happened at the basement level, where we kept spare supplies and maintenance rooms. I was doing a patrol when I heard the elevator ding in the basement corridor behind me. A clean, cheerful ding that sounded wrong in that concrete hallway. I turned and saw the service elevator doors open. Dark interior. No light, no movement. The floor indicator above the doors read 13. Our hotel had floors 1 to 12, then 14. Number 13. No button. No access. My stomach tightened. I didn't step forward. I stood where I was and waited. The door stayed open. I could feel the dark interior like a presence, like a room inside a room. Then, from inside the elevator car, a quiet voice said, "Hey!" Not screaming, not moaning, just someone trying to get your attention. It sounded like a tired employee. I didn't answer. The voice continued, calm. "Can you hold the door?" it asked. That made my skin crawl, because it was phrased like an ordinary request, a small social reflex. Hold the door. Help out. Be polite. I didn't move. The voice sighed softly. "You're new," it said. "That's okay." Then it said something that made my throat go dry. "It's easier if you let me take the keys." My keys were in my pocket. The master ring that opened service doors, storage rooms, the security office. I backed away slowly. The elevator doors stayed open. I kept my eyes on the floor indicator. 13 held steady. Then the voice said my name. Not my last name. Not security. My real first name. I froze. The elevator doors closed, gentle and smooth. Silence returned. I finished my patrol and went back to the security office, trying to keep my breathing normal. The cameras showed normal hallways. Then at 1:24, the desk phone rang. Caller ID 1313. No internal extension like that existed. I didn't answer. It rang twice and stopped. A minute later, the security office door handle turned gently. Locked. A calm voice outside said, "I'm here for the keys." I held my breath. The voice continued, quieter now, like it was leaning toward a crack beneath the door. "You can sleep," it said. "I can finish the rounds." That offer again. Sleep. Relief. Replacement. I understood then what made it scary. It wasn't trying to terrify me into running. It was trying to convince me to hand over my routine. Because a routine is a pattern. And patterns are how a building learns you. I didn't move. I didn't answer. I wrote nonsense in a logbook to keep my hands from shaking. After a long time, the door handle stopped turning. The footsteps outside faded. At 2 a.m., the security office cameras returned to feeling empty again. I thought it was over. At 5:58 a.m., 2 minutes before shift change, the service elevator dinged in the lobby. I glanced at the lobby monitor. The elevator doors opened, interior lit normally, and standing inside was a man in a security uniform. My uniform, same jacket, same badge clip. He didn't step out. He just looked toward the camera and smiled slightly, like someone about to take over. Then the doors closed. At 6 a.m., the day guard arrived and asked if the night was quiet. I said yes, because what else do you say when you realize the building is offering to staff itself, and all it needs from you is one polite moment of cooperation? I quit that week, and even now, when an elevator opens and no one is inside, I feel the old reflex, the urge to hold the door, and I remember the offer. You can sleep? Story 7 Hotel. If your key cards print by themselves at 3:07 a.m., what would you do? Imagine you're alone at the front desk on a quiet weekday night. The lobby is clean, silent, and brightly lit in a way that makes the darkness outside look deeper than it should. You're halfway through a cold coffee, watching the camera grid, thinking the rest of the shift will be easy. Then the key card encoder, without anyone at the desk, starts printing cards. Not one, not two, a full set. 2 identical key cards slide out, one after the other, and the machine beeps the same success tone it makes when you check someone in. So what would you do in that situation? Would you assume the system queued a delayed request? Would you shrug and toss them in the drawer? Or would you check the room number on the cards and realize it's a room you haven't rented in months? That's how it started for me. The hotel had a policy. Any key request after midnight required ID verification. People lose cards, people swap guests, people sneak extra people in. Overnight, the rule is strict because there's no backup and no room for confusion. At 3:07 a.m., the encoder beeped twice. I looked up, expecting to see a guest at the counter. Nobody. 2 fresh key cards rested on the printer tray. I picked them up and checked the printed label. RM308. RM308. Room 308 wasn't marked occupied. I knew that because night audit is basically living in the reservation system. 308 was listed as vacant/clean. I checked the activity log. No front desk check-in. No mobile key request. No staff access. And yet the encoder had printed keys like it had been instructed, correctly, cleanly, without error. I walked to the back office and told the night auditor, a woman named Sanaa who'd been there longer than anyone. Keys just printed for 308. I said. She didn't look surprised. That was the first bad sign. She just asked, "Did you touch the encoder before it printed?" "No," I said. "It did it on its own." Sanaa stared at the cards in my hand, like she didn't want to be too close to them. Then she said something that didn't match normal hotel logic. "Put them in the shred bin," she said. "We don't shred active keys." I replied automatically. "Those aren't for guests," she said. My stomach tightened. "Then who are they for?" Sanaa sighed. "Do you want the real answer or the answer that lets you finish your shift?" she asked. I hesitated. She took the cards from my hand, using 2 fingers like they were dirty, walked to the shred bin under the counter, and dropped them in without shredding them. "Don't print replacement keys for 308 tonight," she said. "If someone asks, you tell them you need a manager. Who would ask if the room is vacant?" I said. Sanaa looked at me, eyes tired. "Exactly," she said. At 3:21 a.m., the lobby phone rang. Caller ID showed an internal extension, 308. I stared at it, because room phones only call the desk if the room phone line is active. Vacant rooms shouldn't call. I looked at Sanaa. She shook her head once, firm. The phone rang 6 times, then stopped. Silence returned. Then the encoder beeped again. 2 more key cards slid out. RM308. RM308. Sanaa's face went pale in a controlled way, like she was trying not to look frightened in front of me. She grabbed the 2 new cards and dropped them into the shred bin again. "Why is it doing that?" I whispered. Sanaa didn't answer. She walked behind the desk and adjusted the lobby camera view, so the elevator doors were larger on the screen. You see that? She asked. I looked. The elevator indicator displayed 3 even though the elevator doors hadn't opened and there was no call. Then the elevator dinged softly, like a polite announcement. The doors opened. The elevator car was dark. No interior light. A black rectangle inside a bright lobby. Sanaa didn't look at it for long. She moved us both into back office and shut the door. What is happening? I asked. Sanaa spoke very quietly, like the building could hear volume. It wants access, she said. To what? I asked. Sanaa exhaled. To the 3rd floor, she said, and it likes rooms that look empty on paper. We stood in the dark office listening. In the lobby, the elevator doors closed. Then the desk phone rang again. This time, it rang only twice and stopped, like someone testing whether we would react. Then the staff corridor phone rang. The internal phone by the service elevator. Maintenance line only. It rang exactly 3 times. Then stopped. Sanaa whispered, "Don't answer anything." I nodded, barely breathing. A minute passed. Then, from the lobby side of the back office door, I heard a quiet sound. A plastic card sliding against a lock. Once. Twice. Like someone was trying keys on the back office door. Sanaa's eyes widened. Because the back office door didn't use keycards. It used a physical key. And yet, someone was swiping something anyway, as if they expected the door to learn and comply. The swiping stopped. Silence held. Then a voice spoke softly right outside the back office door. Not yelling, not threatening, just practical. "Front desk," it said. "I need a copy." It sounded like me. Not perfect, but close enough that my stomach flipped. Sanaa's lips pressed together. She didn't respond. The voice continued, calmer. "I'm on 308, it said. "My cards aren't working." The line was delivered like a normal guest complaint, like customer service, like routine. Sanaa leaned to my ear and whispered, "If you answer, it gets a person attached to the room." I didn't fully understand, but I understood enough to stay silent. After a long minute, the voice stopped speaking. We heard footsteps move away across lobby tile, slow, patient. Then the encoder beeped one last time. When morning shift arrived, Sanaa acted normal. She didn't mention any of it. She told me to do the same. I stayed quiet. But before I left, I checked the system one more time. Room 308 now showed occupied. No guest name. No payment method. No check-in record. Just a single service note stamped at 3:07 a.m. Keys reissued, 2, as if the hotel had accepted the request. As if it had decided the room needed someone in it, whether or not we agreed. And if you're wondering what I did next, I never worked the 3rd floor again. Because after that night, anytime a guest asked me to just make an extra key, it didn't sound harmless anymore. It sounded like an invitation. Story 8 security. If the patrol system logs your round while you're still sitting down, do you correct it? Imagine you're doing night security in an office complex with RFID checkpoints. Those little wall tags you scan to prove you did your patrol. Management loves them because they're simple. They don't trust "I walked around." They trust timestamps. Now imagine you're in the security office, watching the cameras and the patrol system logs. Round complete, 3:18 a.m., but you haven't left your chair. What would you do? Would you call it a software bug and ignore it? Or would you realize the system is claiming someone did your route perfectly without you? That's how my contract ended. The building had 11 floors, plus a basement loading dock. The route was fixed. Lobby tag, loading dock tag, basement stairwell tag, then random corridor tags on floors 4, 6, and 9. The first time the system duplicated a checkpoint, I shrugged. The second time, I told my supervisor. He didn't even look up from his phone. "Old reader," he said. "If it shows completed, you're fine." That answer bothered me. Fine wasn't the point. The point was truth. On a Tuesday at 3:11 a.m., I did my basement scan and headed back upstairs. I remember the time because the basement always smelled like wet cardboard, and the air felt colder there, like the building's lungs didn't reach. Would you call it a software bug and ignore it? Or would you realize the system is claiming someone did your route perfectly? Without you? That's how my contract ended. The building had 11 floors, plus a basement loading dock. The route was fixed. Lobby tag, loading dock tag, basement stairwell tag, then random corridor tags on floors 4, 6, and 9. The first time the system duplicated a checkpoint, I shrugged. The second time, I told my supervisor. He didn't even look up from his phone. "Old reader," he said. "If it shows completed, you're fine." That answer bothered me. Fine wasn't the point. The point was truth. On a Tuesday at 3:11 a.m., I did my basement scan and headed back upstairs. I remember the time because the basement always smelled like wet cardboard, and the air felt colder there, like the building's lungs didn't reach. I returned to the security office at 3:16, sat down and docked my scanner. The patrol system printed a receipt strip. Everything normal. Then it printed a second strip. Same timestamps. Same order. Then a third strip, shorter. Just one line repeated 3 times. Basement stairwell, 3:11 a.m. Basement stairwell, 3:11 a.m. Basement stairwell, 3:11 a.m. My throat went dry because the basement tag wasn't a high traffic tag. It was behind a fire door. You had to choose to go there. I checked the scanner history on the device. 1 scan only. I checked the patrol software history. 3 scans. That meant the duplication existed in the building system, not the handheld. I looked up at the cameras, suddenly suspicious of the empty hallways. The basement camera feed was grainy but steady. Empty stairs. No movement. Then the feed flickered just for a blink. And in that blink, I saw a person standing at the basement tag, wearing a security jacket, holding a scanner to the wall in the exact posture I use. The feed snapped back to normal. Empty. I rewound the camera. The blink wasn't recorded. It had only existed live. My stomach tightened. At 3:18 a.m., the patrol system beeped softly and displayed. Round complete. 3:18 a.m. I hadn't moved. The printer began to spit out another receipt strip, as if it was proud. All checkpoints scanned, all in the correct order. I stared at the timestamps. The basement scan time had changed. It now read 3:17, then 3:18, like the system had rewritten the route in real time. Then my desk phone rang. Caller ID, a building extension that didn't exist. 1 digit too long. I didn't answer. It rang twice and stopped. The office door handle turned gently. Testing. Locked. A calm voice from the hallway said, "Round complete." It sounded like me, not perfectly, but close enough that my skin prickled. The voice continued, quiet and reasonable. "You can rest now." I didn't answer. I stared at the logbook and wrote meaningless lines, just dates, times, the word clear, over and over, because keeping my hand moving kept my mouth from responding. Outside the door, I heard a soft beep, like an RFID scanner acknowledging a tag. Then another beep, then another, like someone was scanning checkpoints right outside my office, learning the route near me, rehearsing. The handle turned again, not aggressive, patient, then silence. A few minutes later, the patrol system printed one final strip, without prompting, handover confirmed. No name, no ID, just handover, like the building believed someone had taken over the shift. When the day guard arrived at 6, he looked at me strangely. "You okay?" he asked. "I saw you on the lobby camera earlier." My stomach dropped. "No, you didn't," I said. He nodded casually. "Yeah," he said. "You were down by the elevator at like 3:20. I felt cold spread through my arms. "I was here," I said. He shrugged. "Okay," he said, like I was arguing over something minor. Then he added, still casual, Maybe the camera timestamp is off, but you look like you were walking like you were tired. I quit the next day, because if the system can prove you did your job without you doing it, then your presence isn't required. And the scariest part of night security isn't the idea of something breaking in. It's the idea of being quietly replaced by someone that can complete your routine better than you can. Story 9. If a guest asks you for help but the cameras show they never entered, you still go? Imagine your overnight security for a hotel that shares a lobby with an office building. Common in downtown areas, one set of elevators goes to hotel floors. Another goes to offices. Your job is to keep the boundary clean. Hotel guest to hotel, office access controlled, no one wandering. Now imagine someone approaches the desk at 1:40 a.m. and says, politely, I'm locked out of my room. Can you come with me? You look up. They're dressed normally. Not scary. Not threatening. Just tired. But then you check cameras and realize something impossible. They never came through the front doors. So what would you do? Would you treat them like a normal guest and follow protocol? Or would you refuse and risk provoking someone who might still be a real person? This is a kind of situation you remember forever, because there isn't a correct answer. There's only the choice you make. He appeared at 1:40, like he'd been standing there quietly for a while. Male, mid-30s, plain jacket, no luggage. He smiled a small, tired smile. Sorry, he said. My card won't open my door. Sure, I said automatically. What's your room number? 1804, he said. Hotel had 18 floors. 1804 existed. I checked the system. Room 1804 was occupied under corporate booking, a name I didn't recognize. Can I see your ID? I asked. He nodded and reached into his pocket. Then he paused. I left it in the room, he said, like he was embarrassed. That happens. People lock themselves out constantly. Okay, I said, I can come with you and verify once we're inside. He smiled like I'd said exactly what he wanted to hear. I glanced at the lobby cameras out of routine. Front door feed, side entrance, valet entrance. I didn't see him enter. I rewound 10 minutes. Nothing. I rewound 20. Nothing. It was as if he'd simply started existing at the desk. My stomach tightened. He watched me rewind, expression still calm. Not impatient. Not confused. Like he knew I would check. You're careful, he said softly. I forced a professional tone. Just routine, I said. He nodded. Good, he said. Routine makes it easier. That sentence landed wrong. I swallowed. I'll need you to wait here, I said, buying time. I'll call up to confirm. He smiled slightly wider. Don't call, he said. I froze. Why? He kept smiling. Because nobody will answer, he said. I stared at him, and in that moment I noticed something tiny that made my skin prickle. His badge clip, like the kind staff use, was on his jacket. But no badge, just a clip, like someone copied the shape of belonging without the details. I can't escort you without verifying, I said carefully. He tilted his head slightly. Then verify, he said calm. Come with me. I felt that subtle pressure again, the social reflex to be helpful, to not escalate, to comply with a simple request. That's what night shift does to you. It trains you to solve small problems quickly. It makes you vulnerable to anyone who speaks in procedures. I made a decision. I would walk him to the elevator, but I would not step inside. I would call the room from the lobby phone and see if anyone answered. We walked. His footsteps were quiet, too quiet on the polished tile. At the hotel elevator, he didn't press the button. The doors opened anyway. The interior light was on, but it looked dimmer than it should, like the elevator was lit by something farther away. He turned to me. After you, he said. I stopped at the threshold. Sir, I said, I'll ride up after I verify you the guest. He looked at me for a long moment, still smiling. Then, softly, he said my name. Not the name on my badge. My real first name. Cold ran through my arms. I hadn't told him. The desk didn't display it. The lobby was empty. His smile didn't change. "You're doing great," he said, like praise, like encouragement, like training. The elevator doors stayed open, waiting. I didn't move. He sighed quietly, almost bored. "Okay," he said, "we can do it the slow way." He stepped back out of the elevator and walked past me toward the staff corridor, toward the service elevator and the back office. I moved quickly to cut him off. "Sir, you can't." He didn't look at me. He just said calmly, "Keys?" My stomach dropped. The staff corridor had the key cabinet, master rings, back of house access. He walked like someone who already knew the layout, like someone who had done it before. I reached for my radio. My thumb pressed the talk button. Static. Then a voice came through the radio speaker. Quiet, close. My voice. "Copy," it said. I froze. The man stopped near the staff corridor door and turned his head slightly. "See," he said softly. Routine. Then the staff corridor phone rang. 3 rings. And stopped. Then the key cabinet lock clicked once, like someone had tested it. I backed away, heart pounding, and locked myself into the back office. Through the frosted glass, I saw his silhouette pause outside. He didn't bang. He didn't shout. He just stood there, patient, like time worked for him. Then his voice, still calm, slipped through the door gap. "If you want to escort me," he said, "I'll escort myself." I held my breath. A moment passed. Then, from the hotel elevator area, I heard a soft ding. I looked at the lobby monitor. The hotel elevator doors opened again. Empty. Then, in the reflection of the elevator's polished interior wall, I saw movement. Like a person standing just out of direct view, not entering, not exiting, just present. Then the elevator doors closed, and the floor indicator began climb. Going up, as if someone invisible had finally gotten what they wanted, access without permission. At 2:05 a.m., the system logged the door vent. 1804, opened, no keycard ID attached, no staff override code, just opened. The next morning, housekeeping reported room 1804 was empty, bed untouched, no luggage, no guest, and the strangest part, the "Do Not Disturb" sign was hung on the inside of the door, facing the room, like it was meant to keep something from coming in, or meant to keep something from leaving. Story 10 Hotel. Imagine a room keeps requesting extra keys, but nobody is checked in. Imagine you're the only person at the front desk at 2:50 a.m. The lobby is spotless. The music is off, and the only steady sound is the soft hum of the vending machines. You're doing what night shift staff do, watching a grid of cameras, answering the occasional call, and waiting for daylight to make everything feel normal again. Then your key card encoder beeps. One card slides out, then another. The machine prints 2 keys like it's in the middle of a standard check-in, even though nobody is standing at the counter. What would you do? Toss them in the drawer? Assume the system glitched? Or look at the room number and realize it's for a room nobody has occupied for weeks? That was my situation. And it didn't feel like a glitch once I saw the number. Room 611. I knew 611 was empty because I'd checked the occupancy board 5 minutes earlier. The hotel wasn't busy. We were between events. Only a handful of rooms were occupied on each floor. I picked up the cards and checked the label again to make sure I wasn't misreading it. Both were cleanly printed. 611. No guest name. No folio. No check-in record. No mobile key request. I opened the key system log. Every front desk person lives in logs after midnight. It showed a key-issued event, authorized as if a staff member had requested it, but the operator ID field was blank. That's not how the system behaves. Even when it glitches, it usually leaves some trail, a workstation ID, a time offset, a partial error code. This log looked confident. 2 keys issued. Room 611. I walked to the back office and told the night auditor, a quiet guy named Harris. He'd been there long enough that his calm felt permanent. 2 keys just printed for 611, I said. Harris didn't ask, "Are you sure?" He didn't laugh. He just stopped typing and looked at me like he was measuring how serious I was. "Did you swipe your login?" he asked. "No," I said. "It printed by itself." Harris leaned back in his chair. "Okay," he said slowly. "Don't issue any more." "I didn't issue these," I said. He nodded like that didn't matter. "Still, don't issue any more." I held the cards up. "What do I do with these?" Harris stared at them for a moment, then said, "Put them in the drop safe." It was a small metal box under the counter where we stored cash drops. You couldn't retrieve anything from it without a manager key. "We don't put key cards in there," I said. "We do tonight," he replied. That answer bothered me more than the printing did. It meant he'd seen something like this before, or at least feared it enough to have a plan. I slid the 2 key cards into the drop safe and closed the slot. At 3:03 a.m., the desk phone rang. Caller ID, 611. My throat tightened. Room phones call the front desk all the time. Sure, but a vacant room shouldn't be calling, and a caller ID shouldn't route cleanly if the room isn't active in the system. Harris stood up immediately and came to the desk. He didn't look at the phone. He looked at my face. "Don't answer," he said. The phone rang 7 times and stopped. For a second, the lobby was silent again. I almost convinced myself that was the end of it. Then the phone rang again. Caller ID, 611. Harris shook his head firm. "No." It rang and stopped again. Then the elevator in the lobby made a soft chime, not the standard ding. A quieter chime, like the elevator was trying not to disturb anyone. We both looked at the camera monitor. The elevator doors open on the first floor. No one stepped out. The elevator interior light was on, but it looked dimmer than it should, like the light was reaching the space from somewhere far away. The door stayed open too long. Harris didn't move. He didn't go investigate. He watched the monitor the way you watch a stove when you think it might flare. Then the elevator doors closed. The floor indicator began to climb. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It stopped at 6. Then, without opening, at least not on the lobby camera, the indicator went blank and dropped back down. A second later, the desk phone rang again. Caller ID, 611. I didn't answer. Harris didn't answer. The call stopped, and immediately the encoder beeped again. 2 more key cards slid out, again labeled 611. Harris's face tightened. He scooped them up quickly and shoved them into the drop safe as well, like speed mattered. "You're going to tell me what this is?" I whispered. Harris stared at the camera grid. "It's a pattern," he said quietly. "A pattern of what?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just pointed at the service corridor camera, staff-only hallway behind the desk. A shadow moved across the far end of the hallway. Not a person walking, not a clear shape, just a change in darkness, like someone stepped between lights. The service corridor phone rang. The internal maintenance phone that only staff should use. 3 rings, then silence. Harris leaned closer to me and spoke in the lowest voice possible. "Listen," he said. "If you hear footsteps, you stay behind the desk. You do not go upstairs. And you do not, under any circumstances, open the drop safe." "That's not even possible," I said, voice shaking. Harris looked at me and said, "Then don't test it." A minute later, we heard the softest sound, barely audible over the lobby's hum. A key card swipe, not at the front door, not at the elevator. In the service corridor, the sound repeated, slow, patient, like someone trying multiple cards. Then another sound, a gentle tap on glass, now on the front doors. On the small glass window in the back office door, Harris froze. A voice spoke softly from the corridor side, calm and close, like a co-worker trying not to wake guests. "Front desk," it said. "I need replacement keys." The voice was normal. That's the thing I can't forget. It wasn't theatrical. It was polite. I didn't answer. The voice continued, slightly amused. Room 611, it said. I've been locked out for a while. Harris swallowed hard. Do not answer, he mouthed. The voice paused, then said my name. My real name, not the name on my badge. I felt cold spread through my arms. The voice sighed, still calm. Okay, it said. I'll wait. Footsteps moved away down the corridor, slow, unhurried. Then the lobby elevator chimed again. Doors opened. Empty. Closed. The floor indicator climbed. It stopped, and this time the indicator stayed lit on 6 like someone was holding the elevator there. At 3:19 a.m., the property management system updated by itself. Room 611, occupied. No guest name, no payment, no check-in, just occupied. Harris stared at it for a long time. Then he said something that made my stomach drop. When it marks a room occupied, he whispered, it starts granting permissions. That was the moment I stopped thinking in terms of glitch. Because a glitch doesn't behave like a process. A glitch doesn't escalate. That morning, when the manager arrived, Harris told him nothing. He logged it as a key encoder error and moved on. But before I left, I checked one last thing. Door access logs. At 3:07 a.m., the moment the first keys printed, there was a door vent. Staff corridor, access granted. No card ID attached. No code attached. Just granted. I never worked another overnight shift there. Because if a hotel can quietly decide a room is occupied without a guest, then what it really means is something got checked in and no one asked your permission. Story 11 security. Imagine the camera shows your patrol 5 minutes before you do it. Imagine you're a night guard in an office building where management only trusts what the system can prove. You wear an RFID scanner on your belt and tap wall checkpoints in a specific order. The software timestamps each scan. That's your proof you were awake and moving. Now imagine you look at the monitoring screen at 3:12 a.m. and see this. Checkpoint 4 scanned, 3:17 a.m. Checkpoint 5 scanned, 3:19 a.m. Round completed, 3:21 a.m. The problem is obvious. It's 3:12. The system is logging your future. What would you do? Laugh it off as a clock error? Reboot the system? Or panic? Because a building shouldn't be able to predict you unless something is performing your route ahead of you? This happened during a contract job in a medical office complex. Empty at night, except for cleaning staff and security. My route was fixed. Basement loading dock, lobby, then floors 2, 4, 6, and 8, then back to security office. The first time the timestamps were wrong, I blamed the server clock. The building had old equipment. But the second time, the error became directional. The system didn't just show the wrong time. It showed the correct sequence of checkpoints, just ahead of where I actually was. At 3:05, I scanned the basement dock tag. Normal. I came back to the office, sat down, and watched cameras for a few minutes. At 3:12, the patrol screen updated on its own. It displayed that I had scanned the lobby tag at 3:13, 1 minute in the future. Then it displayed that I scanned the floor 2 tag at 3:15, 3 minutes in the future. I stood up, confused, and looked down at the scanner on my belt. It was powered on. It hadn't beeped. It hadn't recorded anything new. I checked the live camera feed for the lobby. Empty. Then I checked the stairwell feed. Empty. Then I checked the corridor on floor 2. Empty. But the patrol screen insisted the scans were happening. I did what management would expect. I went out to verify. I rode the elevator to the lobby and scanned the lobby tag. The scanner beeped. I returned to the office. The patrol screen updated again, and my stomach dropped. It didn't log my scan at 3:12, the real time. It logged it at 3:13, exactly as it had predicted. As if the system didn't care what time I actually did it. It cared that I matched the time it had already written. I stared at the screen, trying to think like a technician instead of a scared person. Network delay? Buffering? Duplicate packets? But the timestamps were too clean, too intentional. I decided to break the pattern. I decided to scan out of order. Instead of going floor 2 next, I went to floor 6. I scanned the floor 6 tag early. The scanner beeped normally. When I returned to the office, the patrol screen did something I'll never forget. It rewrote the route. Floor 6 appeared on the timeline at 3:18, not at 3:12. It moved my scan forward in time to keep the future route intact. Then, a second later, it logged floor 2 at 3:15, still ahead. It wasn't tracking me. It was scheduling me. My breath came shallow. The desk phone rang. Caller ID displayed an internal extension I didn't recognize, 1 digit longer than any building extension. I didn't answer. It rang twice and stopped. Then my office door handle turned gently. Testing. The door was locked. A calm voice outside said, "Round complete." It sounded like me. Not perfect, but close enough that my skin prickled. Same cadence, same tired tone. I didn't answer. I stood perfectly still, eyes fixed on the patrol screen. The screen logged another checkpoint scan. Office door tag, 3:14 a.m. There was no office door tag. Nothing on my route was located there. And yet the system claimed to scan at my exact location, like it was acknowledging my presence without me doing anything. The door handle turned again, patient. The voice outside softened. "You can sit," it said. "I'll walk." I forced myself not to respond. I stared at the logbook and wrote nonsense. Times, dates, the word clear, over and over. On the camera monitor, the elevator doors opened in the lobby. No one stepped out. The doors stayed open. Then the elevator doors closed and the floor indicator climbed. 2, 4, 6. It stopped on floor 6. A moment later, the corridor camera on floor 6 flickered. For a fraction of a second, I saw a figure in a security jacket near the checkpoint tag, standing in the posture people use when they tap a scanner. The image snapped back to empty. I rewound footage. Nothing. It wasn't recorded. It had only existed live, like a private demonstration. At 3:21, the patrol system beeped and printed a slip. Round completed. 3:21 a.m. Handover confirmed. No employee ID. Just confirmed. The door handle stopped turning. Outside the office, footsteps moved away, slow and calm, like someone leaving because they finished a job. At 6 a.m., the day guard arrived and said casually, "Quiet night." I nodded, because explaining it felt like giving a definition. Then he said something that made my stomach drop. "By the way," he added, "I saw you on the cameras around 3:20. You looked exhausted." I stared at him. "I was in here," I said. He shrugged like it didn't matter. "Maybe the timestamp's off," he said. "Anyway, you finished your round early." "Nice." He believed the system, because that's what he was trained to do. I turned in my badge the next day, because if the building can complete your patrol before you do, then the building doesn't need you to be awake. It just needs you to be replaceable. Story 12. Imagine a guest asks you to escort them, and the cameras show they never arrived. Imagine you're working a mixed night shift. Hotel security plus lobby coverage. It's one of those downtown buildings where the first few floors are a hotel and the upper floors are offices. The lobby is shared, which means a boundary between guest and not a guest matters more than people realize. Now imagine a man approaches you at 1:22 a.m. Normal clothes, calm face, no rushing, no anger. He says politely, "Can you escort me to my room? My phone died and my key isn't working." That's a normal request. But then you check the cameras and realize something impossible. He never came through any entrance. So what would you do? Because if you refuse, you might escalate a real person. And if you comply, you might be escorting something that doesn't belong anywhere. He stood at the counter like he'd been there a while, hands resting gently on the marble. "Room." I asked. He smiled. 1711, he said. I checked the system. 1711 was occupied under a corporate booking. The name listed was unfamiliar. Can I see ID? I asked. He patted his jacket pockets and did the most believable thing. He looked embarrassed. In the room, he said. I stepped out to get ice. That happens every night. People forget. People lock themselves out. The story was plausible. I can do an escort, I said, but I'll need to verify inside. He nodded like I'd said exactly what he expected. Before I moved, I checked cameras, routine, front doors, side doors, parking entrance. I rewound 10 minutes. No sign of him. I rewound 20. Nothing. I rewound an hour. Still nothing. My stomach tightened, and I felt that specific night shift fear. Not panic, but the sudden sense that you're making a mistake in slow motion. He watched me rewind without impatience. You're careful, he said softly. It's policy, I replied. He nodded. Good, he said. Policy makes it easier. That line landed wrong, but not wrong enough to be proof. Stay here, I said, buying time. I'll call the room. He tilted his head slightly. Don't call, he said. I froze. Why? He smiled, still calm. Nobody will answer, he said. I picked up the desk phone anyway and called 1711. It rang. No answer. I tried again. No answer. I told myself, maybe the guest is asleep. Maybe they're in the shower. Fine. I looked back at him. I can escort you, I said carefully, but I'll need you to confirm your name. He gave a name that matched the booking. That made my throat tighten, because either he was a guest or he had knowledge he shouldn't. We walked to the elevator bank. He didn't press the button. The elevator doors opened anyway. I stepped forward, then stopped at the threshold. Inside, the elevator interior lights were on, but dim, like the light was fighting a shadow that wasn't physical. He stood inside the elevator and looked at me. After you, he said politely. I didn't move. Sir, I said, I'll follow once I verify. He said my name, my real first name, quietly, like a reminder. My skin went cold. I hadn't said it. My badge didn't show it clearly from where he stood, and the lobby was empty. He smiled slightly wider. You're doing great, he said, and the sentence sounded like encouragement you give someone training for a task. I backed away half a step. His voice remained calm. If you don't escort me, he said, I'll find another way. Then he stepped out of the elevator and walked toward the staff corridor, toward the service elevator, the master keys, and the back office. I moved quickly to block him. You can't go back there, I said, firmer now. He stopped, didn't argue, didn't apologize. He just said one word, softly, keys. The staff corridor phone rang, maintenance line. 3 rings, then silence. Then the radio on my belt crackled. Static. Then my own voice came through, close and quiet. Copy. I froze. The man's expression didn't change. He didn't look surprised. He looked satisfied, like the building had confirmed something for him. He leaned slightly toward the staff corridor door, not touching it. The key cabinet lock clicked once, like a test. I backed up into the back office and locked the door. Through the frosted glass, I saw his silhouette stand there patiently. No pounding, no shouting, just waiting. His voice came through the door gap calm. If you won't escort me, he said, I'll escort myself. Then, from the elevator bank, a soft chime. On the lobby monitor, the elevator doors opened. Empty. The door stayed open for a long moment, like the elevator was holding itself. Then the doors closed and the floor indicator climbed. It stopped at the same moment. The system logged a door event. 1711 opened. No card ID, no staff override, just opened. I sat in the back office, breathing shallow, listening for footsteps that didn't sound like footsteps. When the morning manager arrived, I reported it as a suspicious person who attempted to access staff areas. They reviewed cameras. And here's what makes my stomach drop even now. On camera, he was never at the desk, never at the elevator, never in the hallway. The footage showed me speaking to empty air, then backing into the office as if someone approached. The manager stared at me like I was either lying or losing it. Housekeeping checked 1711. Empty room. No luggage. Bed untouched. But on the inside of the door, the Do Not Disturb sign was hanging, facing inward, like it wasn't warning staff, like it was telling something in the room to stay there. And that's the part you remember forever, because if the cameras don't record it, you don't get closure. You just get the question. If it wasn't a guest, and it wasn't on footage, what exactly did I almost escort upstairs? Story 13 Hotel. Imagine you get a noise complaint from a floor that's closed. Would you still go? Imagine you're working the front desk on an overnight shift, and the phone rings at 2:18 a.m. A guest sounds irritated, half awake, and says there's loud banging coming from above them. They want security to deal with it now. Normal request, right? Now imagine you check the room number they give you, room 412, and the system shows they're checked in, so the complaint is real. But then you check what's above them, the 5th floor, and your hotel has the 5th floor closed for renovation. No guests, no staff scheduled up there at night. The elevators are locked to that floor. The stairwell doors are alarmed. So what would you do? Because if you ignore a real complaint, you risk guest safety. And if you go check a closed floor, you're walking into a part of the building that's not supposed to have anyone inside. I went, and I still regret how quickly I went, like professionalism overrode survival instincts. The call came through the desk phone, and the voice on the other end was a man who sounded exhausted. "It's loud," he said, "like furniture being dragged. It's been going on for 10 minutes. "I'm sorry," I said, reading from habit. "What room are you in?" 412, he replied. I verified his check-in. Name matched. 2-night stay. No notes. What time did it start? I asked. He paused. I looked at my phone. He said, 2:08. I glanced at the clock. 2:18. Is it still happening? I asked. Yes, he said. And now it sounds like someone is walking in circles, like pacing. Okay, I said. I'll check immediately. I muted the phone and called the night auditor, who was in the back office. Her name was Aisha. She was the type that kept her tone steady no matter what. Noise complaint. I whispered. From 412. He says it's above him. Aisha looked at the reservation screen, and then at me. Above him is 5, she said. Yes, I replied. Aisha's face tightened slightly. 5 is closed, she said. I know, I whispered. That's why I'm telling you. Aisha stared at me for a long moment and then said, Don't go alone. It wasn't policy. It was instinct, and that bothered me. Because if something isn't policy but people still say it like policy, it usually means it happened before. Will you come? I asked. Aisha hesitated. I can't leave audit, she said, but I can watch cameras. I'll stay on the radio. I clipped the radio to my shirt, grabbed the master key ring from the drawer, and walked toward the elevators. The lobby was empty, and that made every small sound feel louder. My shoes on tile, the air conditioner turning on, the soft click of the elevator button. The elevator arrived. When the doors opened, the interior lights looked normal. I stepped in and pressed 4. As the doors closed, I felt that quiet feeling you get when you're alone in an enclosed space at night, like the building is holding its breath with you inside it. The elevator stopped at 4. Doors opened, and the hallway smelled like carpet cleaner and dry air. I walked toward room 412, following the numbers, listening. At first I didn't hear anything. Then I heard it, a low, dragging sound above me, heavy and slow, like furniture moving across a floor. It wasn't loud enough to be normal construction, but it was too heavy to be a person shuffling. I knocked gently on 412. The door opened immediately, like he'd been waiting with his hand on the handle. The guest was a man in his 40s, rumpled, eyes tired. "You hear it?" he asked before I could speak. I nodded. The dragging sound continued faintly, above us. "I'm sorry," I said. "The floor above is closed." "I'm going to check it." His eyes widened. "Closed," he repeated. "Yes," I said. "Are you sure it's above you?" He looked up at the ceiling as if he expected to see through it. "It's right there," he said, like someone is rearranging the room. I felt a strange discomfort, like the complaint wasn't just annoyance. The man looked genuinely unsettled. I keyed my radio. "I'm on 4, I said quietly. "I can hear it." Aisha's voice came through immediately. "I'm watching," she said. "Be careful. Don't take the stairs to 5 unless you have to." I walked to the end of the hall where the stairwell door was. The door had an alarm sign. "Emergency exit only. Alarm will sound." I used the master key. It opened without triggering the alarm because staff keys bypassed it. Inside the stairwell, the air was colder. Concrete smell. Echo. The dragging sound was clearer here, coming from above, through the stairwell wall. I climbed slowly. When I reached the 5th floor landing, the door to the 5th floor was different from the others. It had an extra metal bracket, like a reinforcement, and a sign taped to it. "Floor closed, and no access." I tried my key. The lock opened, but the door didn't move. It felt held from the other side, as if something pressed against it. I tried again, gently. The door gave an inch, then stopped. The dragging sound stopped immediately. Silence filled the stairwell. I held my breath. Aisha's voice crackled softly through the radio. "What's happening?" she whispered. I didn't answer right away, because I didn't want my voice to echo. I pushed the door slightly harder. It moved another inch. And then I heard something on the other side. Not footsteps. A soft tapping sound, like fingernails on metal. 3 taps. Pause. 2 taps. Pause. 1 tap. A countdown pattern. Slow and deliberate. My skin went cold. I stepped back from the door. The tapping stopped. Then the dragging sound resumed, but this time it didn't sound like furniture. It sounded like something heavy being pulled directly toward the stairwell door. Closer. Slow. Aisha whispered through the radio. "Back down. Now." I didn't argue. I turned and descended quickly but quietly, as if noise would be interpreted as attention. On the way down, I heard the stairwell door above me creak softly. Not slam. Not burst. Creak, like someone had opened it slowly. I didn't look back. When I reached the 4th floor, I pulled the stairwell door shut behind me and locked it. My hand shook. I walked back to the elevator and returned to the lobby, forcing myself to look normal for the sake of cameras and habit. At the desk, Aisha was pale. "You didn't go on to 5, right?" she asked. "No," I said. "The door didn't want to open." Aisha stared at me. "Did you hear tapping?" she asked. I swallowed. "Yes," I admitted. Aisha exhaled slowly. "Okay," she said. "Then we do not go back." "But the guest," I began. Aisha cut me off. "We comp the room. We move him. We don't investigate 5 at night." She said it like it was learned the hard way. We moved the guest to a different room, on a lower floor. He accepted without argument. He looked relieved to leave 412. At 4:30 a.m., I checked the camera feed for the 5th floor hallway. It was dark because the floor was powered down. But for a moment, the feed brightened slightly, as if someone had triggered a motion sensor. And in that dim light, I saw something that made my stomach drop. A figure standing at the 5th floor stairwell door from the inside. Not moving, just standing there, close enough that the camera caught a hint of reflective shine, like a keycard or badge clip. Then the motion light turned off, and the hallway went black again. In the morning, maintenance said there was no sign of anyone on 5. No forced entry, no missing equipment. But when I checked the incident log, my typed note had been edited. I had written, "Noise above 412. Check stairwell, no access." The log now included one extra line I didn't type. Do not open 5 at night. No author, no timestamp change. Just there, like an instruction someone wanted preserved. Story 14, security. Imagine your body cam shows footage you don't remember recording. Imagine you're on overnight security at a shopping complex that's closed after midnight. You wear a cheap body cam because the property manager insists on accountability. Your job is to patrol, check doors, and record any incidents. Now imagine you finish your shift, dock the camera, and review the clips, only to find a video labeled 3:33 a.m. The clip shows you walking somewhere. The problem is, you never went there, and you have no memory of the footage. So what would you do? Assume you forgot? Assume the camera recorded incorrectly? Or accept the worst possibility, that your body kept doing the job while your mind wasn't present? That's what happened to me. The body cam was simple. It recorded in 5-minute clips. It had a timestamp. No GPS. No audio most of the time, because the mic was poor. It wasn't meant to capture the whole night, just enough to prove you were moving. At 3 a.m., I was in the security office doing paperwork when I heard the back service door alarm beep faintly in the system. One quick beep, not a full alarm, like a door sensor had been tested. I checked the camera feed for the back corridor. Empty. I checked the door status. It showed secure. I logged it as a sensor glitch. At 3:17, it happened again. Same beep. This time, I decided I'd go physically check the door. Routine. I clipped my radio, grabbed my keys, and walked the corridor. The back service door was closed. Deadbolt set. No signs of tampering. I checked the outside through the small window. Empty lot. I returned to the office and wrote, back service door checked, secure. I remember writing it because I remember thinking the ink looked too dark under the fluorescent light. At 5:55, shift change. I docked the body cam, grabbed my things, and went home. The next afternoon, my supervisor called me. His voice sounded tight. Did you go to the maintenance hallway last night? He asked. I frowned. No, I said. I didn't have reason. You sure? He asked. Yes, I said. There was a pause. Your camera says you did, he said. I drove back to the site, mostly annoyed, expecting to prove the camera had a timestamp glitch. In the office, we pulled up the body cam clips. Most were boring. Me walking corridors, checking locks, returning to the office. Then we clicked the clip marked 3:33 a.m. The footage began with a hallway I didn't recognize. It was narrower than our main corridors and painted an older color. The lighting was dimmer. I watched myself in the video walk slowly, as if listening. Then I turned left and stopped at a door with no signage, just a blank metal door. In the video, I raised my hand and knocked softly. 3 knocks. Pause. 2 knocks. Pause. 1 knock. A slow countdown. My throat tightened because I knew I never do that. My knocks are messy, impatient. But in the footage, the knocking was deliberate. Then, in the footage, the door opened a crack. The interior was dark, and I stepped forward like I had permission. My supervisor paused the video. He stared at me. That door, he said quietly, is not supposed to be accessed. What door is it? I asked. He hesitated. Maintenance storage, he said. Old space. I swallowed. Why wasn't it locked? He didn't answer. We resumed the clip. In the footage, I stepped into darkness. The camera's low light made the interior grainy. My body cam captured the shape of shelves, maybe, and then, this is the part one can't forget, it captured a reflection, not a mirror, something glossy in the dark. And in that reflection, behind me, there was another person-shaped figure, clothes, standing where no one had stood, in the hallway. My stomach dropped. I watched my recorded self pause, head tilting slightly, like listening to something behind the camera. Then my recorded self whispered one sentence. The body cam mic caught it faintly. Okay, I understand. My skin went cold. I didn't remember saying it. Then the footage ended abruptly, as if someone had hit the stop button. My supervisor stared at the screen. I didn't stop it, he said. I didn't even go there, I whispered. He swallowed. The hallway cameras don't show you, he said quietly. I stared at him. What do you mean? He pulled up the hallway CCTV for 3:33 a.m. The CCTV showed the main corridors, me walking normally. It never showed me turning into the maintenance hallway. It never showed me reaching that door. In the CCTV timeline, there was a gap, about 6 minutes, where my body cam recorded me in a place CCTV couldn't account for. Like my movement had fallen outside the building's official pathways. My supervisor leaned close to the screen and said something that made my stomach drop. That door sensor beeped at 3:32, he said, right before you knocked. I stared at the clip again, at my hand knocking in that precise pattern. It looked practiced, like something had taught my body what to do. I quit that week, not because I thought the building was haunted in a dramatic way, because I realized something worse. If my body cam can show me doing things I don't remember, and the main cameras don't register the route, then whatever happened didn't need to hide. It only needed to stay unofficial. Story 15, hotel. Imagine a guest asks for a late checkout at 3 a.m. from a room that checked out yesterday. Imagine you're on night shift at a hotel, and you get a polite call at 3:02 a.m. The guest says, I need a late checkout. Normal request. But then you pull up the room number they give you, room 922, and your system shows that room checked out yesterday at noon. No guest, no active folio. The room is supposed to be empty. So what would you do? Tell them they must have the wrong hotel, send security to check, or agree, because you don't want to provoke a real person who might be in trouble? I did what front desk people do under pressure. I treated it like a customer service problem first. Front desk, I said. How may I help you? A calm voice answered. Male, polite, slightly tired. I need a late checkout, he said. Certainly, I said. What's your room number? 922, he replied. I opened the PMS screen. Room 922 showed vacant/dirty. Housekeeping hadn't serviced it yet after the last checkout. No problem. I said, keeping my tone steady. Can you confirm the name on the reservation? A pause. Then the voice said a full name. And the name was the name of the guest who had checked out yesterday. My throat tightened, because if it was a prank, it was a knowledgeable one. I'm not seeing an active reservation. I said carefully, are you calling from inside the room now? Yes, he said simply. I checked the call display. Caller ID 922. Room phone still worked even when rooms were vacant, but typically the system would mark the extension as inactive. It shouldn't route cleanly, yet it did. Okay, I said, try and stay procedural. I can help. Are you locked out, or is there an issue with the room? A soft exhale. I'm fine, he said. I just need more time. How much time? I asked. Until the afternoon, he said. I glanced at the time. 3:02. We can discuss in the morning, I said. Our manager can... No, he interrupted softly. Not angry, just firm. Do it now. My stomach dropped. Sir, I said, hotel policy. He said my name, my real first name, quietly, like he was reminding me we were already familiar. My hands went cold. I hadn't introduced myself. The night screen didn't show my name. The phone system didn't announce it. I forced myself to breathe steadily. I'm going to place you on a brief hold, I said, and I did. I walked to the back office and woke the night manager, who was sleeping in a small room we used for break shifts. He was older, called himself retired but not retired. There's a call from 922. I whispered. The room checked out yesterday. He stared at me, fully awake instantly. Did you answer? He asked. Yes, I said. He wants a late checkout. The manager exhaled slowly. "Do not go to that room," he said. "I didn't," I replied. "What is it?" He rubbed his face. "That room sometimes doesn't clear," he said carefully. "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means the system says it's vacant," he said, "but the room doesn't agree." My skin prickled. He walked to the desk with me and looked at the phone display 922. He picked up the second handset and listened without speaking. I watched his face tighten. He set it down. "He's asking for time," the manager said quietly. I swallowed. "Is someone in there?" The manager hesitated. "Not someone you can deal with," he said. The held line clicked. The guest was back. "Are you there?" the voice asked calm. The manager leaned toward the handset and spoke in a steady tone. "Sir," he said, "that room is not available. You need to check out." The voice on the line sighed softly. "I already did," it said. The manager's jaw tightened. "Then you need to leave," he said. A pause. Then the voice said, "Give me the key." My stomach dropped. "What key?" I whispered to the manager. He didn't answer me. He just said into the phone, "No." The voice stayed calm. "It's in the drawer," it said. "The one you don't like to touch." The manager's eyes flicked toward the key cabinet behind the desk, specifically toward the top slot where we kept an old brass key for a maintenance door that wasn't used anymore. The voice continued polite. "If I have the key, I can keep the room quiet." The manager swallowed. "No," he repeated. The line went silent. Then the phone call ended. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the elevator in the lobby dinged. The doors opened. Empty. The interior light was off, making the elevator a dark rectangle. The floor indicator above it displayed 9. But the elevator was in the lobby. The indicator should have displayed 1. The manager stepped back slowly. "Back office," he whispered. We moved into the back office and shut the door. From the lobby, faintly, we heard footsteps on tile, slow and careful. They stopped at the desk. Then we heard the sound of the key cabinet drawer sliding open. My stomach dropped because the key cabinet was behind the desk, and no one was there. The manager pressed his hand over his mouth, breathing shallow. The drawer slid shut. Footsteps moved toward the elevator. A soft chime, then silence. When we finally came out, the lobby looked normal again. The key cabinet drawer was closed, but the old brass key, and used for years, was gone. Later that morning, housekeeping reported room 922 was unusually warm, and the Do Not Disturb sign was hanging on the inside of the door again, facing inward, and the room's phone was off the hook, like someone had been on a call for a long time. Story 16. Imagine you find a guest's master key request that no staff member placed. Imagine you're working a night shift where you're both security and front desk support, one of those hotels that runs lean after midnight. The lobby is bright, empty, and quiet enough that you can hear the elevator cables settle between trips. You're watching cameras, logging door checks, doing the small jobs that keep the building normal until morning. Now imagine your system prints a service ticket by itself. Not an invoice, not an audit report. A service ticket, the kind only staff can generate, requesting a master key override. And the request is tied to a room that isn't supposed to exist on paper. What would you do in that situation? Because if you ignore it, you might be ignoring a real safety issue. But if you respond like it's routine, you might be validating something that's trying to use your procedures against you. This happened to me on a Tuesday night, around 2:40 a.m., in a downtown property that had 2 elevator banks, one for guests and one for service. Guests used keycards. Service used physical keys and staff badges. Everything was controlled in a way that made the hotel feel safe, at least during the day. At night, the control is mostly theater. The first strange thing wasn't dramatic. It was just off. At 2:41 a.m., the printer behind the desk chirped and spat out a narrow strip of paper. I assumed it was a late audit form. I pulled it out without looking. It read, Work order. Key override request. Room 1208. Requested by front desk. Time 2:41 a.m. I stared at it, confused, because I hadn't requested anything. I was the only person at the front desk. The night auditor was in the back office. Nobody else had access. I checked the work order system on the monitor. Sure enough, there was a new tick in the queue. Key override requested for 1208. Room 1208 existed. The hotel had 12 floors. But I knew the occupancy was low and the top floors were mostly empty. I clicked the room. Status: vacant / out of service. Out of service meant maintenance had flagged it. HVAC issue, plumbing issue, something like that. The room shouldn't be sold. It shouldn't be in use. And staff definitely shouldn't be generating key overrides for it at 2:41 a.m. I did what you do when you want a rational answer. I checked the logs. The system showed the request came from the front desk terminal, my terminal, with my operator ID. That made my stomach tighten, because it meant either I did it and blacked out, which was impossible, or the system was lying in a very specific way. I stood up and walked to the back office. The night auditor, Malik, looked up from his screen. "Did you place a work order for 1208? I asked. Malik frowned. "No," he said immediately. "Why?" I showed him the paper strip. He read it once, then read it again slower. His face didn't panic, but it changed, like a person recognizing something they'd hoped never to see again. "Don't do that," he said quietly. "I didn't," I replied. "It did it." Malik stared at me for a long second. "Okay," he said, "then we don't touch it." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means we don't issue keys, we don't go upstairs, and we don't acknowledge it." Malik said, "Delete the ticket." I hesitated. "If it's a real request." Malik cut me off with a look. "It's not," he said. "If it was real, you'd have a guest. You'd have a name. You'd have an ID. This is a process without a person." That sentence sat in my chest. A process without a person. We walked back to the desk. Malik stood beside me while I opened the ticket and tried to cancel it. The cancel button was grayed out. That had never happened before. The system displayed a small note under the ticket. Manager approval required. That was new. Normally, front desk staff can cancel work order instantly. I looked at Malik. He didn't look surprised. He looked tired. "Okay," he said. "So now it's trying to elevate permission." My skin prickled. "Trying." I repeated. Malik didn't answer. He reached into the drawer and pulled out a small laminated card, the kind managers keep for emergency procedures. He slid it toward me. On the card, in plain block letters, were 3 instructions. Do not issue physical keys for out-of-service rooms after midnight. Do not use the service elevator alone during a key incident. If a room requests access without a guest record, call the supervisor and wait for daylight. I stared at the card. "This is a thing?" I asked. Malik's jaw tightened. "It's rare," he said, "and it gets worse if you treat it like customer service." At 2:47 a.m., the desk phone rang. Caller ID 1208. That sound, an internal room extension lighting up the desk phone, should have been routine, but my mouth went dry immediately. Room phones don't call like that if the room isn't active, and out-of-service rooms are usually disconnected from internal routing. The phone kept ringing. Malik shook his head, firm. "No." I watched the phone display like it might change. The ringing stopped. A second later, the phone rang again. Caller ID 1208. It rang exactly twice and stopped, like someone testing how quickly we react. Then the ticket printer chirped again. Another strip of paper slid out. Work order update. Key override escalated. Room 1208. Priority urgent. Note, guest locked out. There was no guest. The system was now assigning a narrative. Malik's voice dropped. "See," he whispered. "It's writing the story it needs." I didn't like the way he said it, because it implied intention. Systems don't need, they just process. But the pattern felt persuasive. At 2:52 a.m., the lobby elevator chimed. We looked at the camera monitor. The guest elevator doors open on the first floor. No one stepped out. The interior lights were on but dim, like the elevator was lit through smoke. The doors stayed open longer than normal. Then they closed. The floor indicator above the doors climbed. 3, 5, 8, 12. It stopped at 12. The elevator should not have stopped at 12 unless someone inside pressed it. Our hotel's elevator logs usually show button presses. Malik pulled up the elevator activity screen. It showed, call registered, floor 12, 2:52 a.m. Origin, unknown, unknown. Then, without warning, the service elevator phone rang. Not the desk phone, the maintenance phone mounted near the staff corridor. Only staff used it. It rang 3 times and stopped. That made my skin crawl, because it felt like the building was trying different channels. If the desk wouldn't answer, it would try staff-only lines. Then the staff corridor access reader beeped. A single short beep, the sound it makes when a badge is presented, whether access is granted or denied. I turned my head toward the staff corridor door. The corridor was empty from what I could see. Just a long, fluorescent-lit hallway leading to the service elevator and back-of-house doors. The reader beeped again. Malik stepped slightly in front of me, blocking me without making it obvious. "Don't go back there," he whispered. The reader beeped a 3rd time. Then, slowly, the staff corridor door handle turned. The door was locked, but the handle turned as if someone was testing it gently. My heart hammered. Malik pressed a lockdown button under the desk, the one that locks the staff corridor door magnetically for emergencies. A small red light appeared, lock engaged. The handle stopped turning. Silence held. Then a calm voice spoke from the other side of the staff corridor door, close enough that it sounded like someone leaning toward the crack. "Front desk," it said politely. "I need the key." The voice sounded like a normal guest. Tired, controlled, annoyed in a restrained way. I didn't answer. Malik didn't answer. The voice continued, still polite. "Room 1208, it said. "I can't access my room." There was a pause, like it waited for us to respond. When we didn't, it added, softer, "I'm locked out." It sounded so routine that the urge to respond rose in me like a reflex, like muscle memory. This is a trap of night shift. Your body wants to solve problems quickly so you can return to boredom. Malik leaned close to me and whispered, "It wants you to speak first." I swallowed, forcing my mouth closed. The voice on the other side sighed. Then it said my name, my real first name, quietly, like we'd met before. Cold ran down my arms. I didn't wear a badge with my first name in large letters. And even if I did, the corridor door was opaque except for a narrow frosted panel. You could not read anything through it. Malik's face went pale. The voice continued, calm and close. "It's okay," it said. "I know you're new." I wasn't new, but the sentence was framed like training, like it had decided my role. Then, still calm, "Bring the master ring." Malik's eyes flicked to the key cabinet behind the desk, the drawer with the physical master ring and service keys. I felt a tight fear in my throat. Malik shook his head once, like he was refusing without speaking. Outside the door, the voice remained patient. "I can wait," it said. And then the worst part, it stopped speaking. Silence is worse than threats, because silence feels like confidence. A minute passed. Then the front desk terminal refreshed by itself and displayed a new prompt in the work order system. Manager approval required. Enter code. A code entry field blinked on the screen, like a login prompt. Malik stared at it. "It's asking you to promote it," he whispered. "I can't," I said. Malik's voice was tight. "It doesn't need your code," he said. "It needs your attempt." That didn't make sense to me at the time. I understood later. Because I did something small, something stupid. I clicked into the code field. The cursor blinked. In that moment, the staff corridor door handle turned again, harder this time, like it felt the attention. The locking gauge red light flickered once. Then the staff corridor door clicked. Unlocked. My stomach dropped. Malik lunged and slammed the lock button again. The red light returned. Steady. We stood frozen. The voice outside spoke again, still calm, almost satisfied. "Thank you," it said. I hadn't thanked it, but it spoke like I had. Then I heard a sound I will never forget in a hotel at night. A slow, careful keycard swipe against the staff corridor reader. Once, twice, like someone practicing. Then the elevator in the lobby chimed again. The doors opened. Empty. The floor indicator showed 12. Even though the doors were open on the first floor, Malik grabbed my wrist and pulled me into the back office. Shutting the door, we stood in the dark office with the light off, listening. From the lobby, faint footsteps on tile. Slow, unhurried, they stopped at the desk. Then, very softly, the key cabinet drawer slid open. I held my breath, because the key cabinet was outside the back office, behind the desk. Something was opening it, but the CCTV lobby feed didn't show anyone. The drawer slid shut. Footsteps moved toward the elevators. A soft chime, then silence. We waited a long time before Malik opened the back office door and checked. The lobby looked normal. Empty, bright, clean. The key cabinet drawer was closed. Malik opened it carefully. The master ring was still there, but one item was missing. An old brass key we never used, kept in the back of the drawer because it didn't belong to any current door. Malik swallowed hard. "That's the service override key," he whispered. "To what?" I asked. He didn't answer. He checked the work order screen. The ticket for 1208 was gone. Not canceled. Not closed. Gone. He opened the room status. Room 1208 now displayed. Occupied. Do not disturb active. No guest name. No payment method. No keycards issued. Just occupied. And in the notes field, a line had been added. Guest requested privacy. Do not contact. Malik stared at it and whispered. It checked itself in. In the morning, the manager arrived. Malik didn't tell him everything. He used normal language. System error, ticket glitch, possible PBX issue. The manager shrugged. He wanted boring answers. But before I left, I checked one last thing. Door vents. At 2:59 a.m., a door vent had been logged. Service stair access granted. No card ID. No code. Just granted. And at 3:01 a.m., another floor 12 service door. Opened. Again, no ID. It didn't break in. It didn't force anything. It obtained access the way a polite person obtains access, by turning procedures into permission. That night, I didn't sleep well, not because I feared some creature in the dark, because I couldn't stop thinking about how easy it was. All I had to do was ask like a guest. All it had to do was sound normal. And if you work nights long enough, your body starts responding to normal automatically. That's why, even now, when I hear a key printer beep in an empty lobby, my first thought isn't glitch. My first thought is, what did it just get access to? Story 17, security. Imagine your patrol scanner logs a checkpoint while you're still looking at it. Imagine you're doing overnight security in a corporate building that's mostly empty after 8 p.m. The kind of place that smells like carpet glue and cold air conditioning, even in winter. Your job is predictable. Watch cameras, do patrol rounds, scan RFID checkpoints, and make sure nothing gets broken or stolen. Now imagine you're standing in front of checkpoint, literally looking at the little RFID puck on the wall, and your scanner beeps as if you scanned it, but your scanner is still on your belt. Your hands are empty, and the screen updates anyway. Checkpoint confirmed. So what would you do in that situation? Because if you shrug it off, You're ignoring something that's messing with your accountability system. And if you report it, you're admitting something you can't explain, something that makes you sound unreliable. That's why most people don't talk about this kind of thing. It doesn't feel haunted. It feels like you're being quietly discredited. This happened during a 3-month contract at a medical office tower connected to a parking structure, 12 floors above ground, one basement level that held storage generators, and a long corridor of locked rooms that nobody liked patrolling alone. The patrol system was strict. Each guard carried a handheld RFID scanner that recorded timestamps. You had to scan checkpoints in set order every hour. If you missed one, the system flagged you. The building didn't trust you. It trusted the beeps. The first week was normal, quiet to the point of boredom. The second week, the system started doing small wrong things, little errors that were easy to blame on old equipment. A checkpoint would fail and then scan on the second attempt. A timestamp would be off by a minute. A printer in the security office would spit out duplicate receipts. None of that felt sinister. It felt like cheap gear. Then, on a Wednesday at 3:09 a.m., I got to the basement checkpoint, one of the required scans, and the scanner beeped before I touched the wall. The sound was unmistakable. One sharp confirmation beep, followed by the short success tone. I froze. My scanner was clipped to my belt. The wall tag was a foot away. I hadn't raised the device. I unhooked the scanner and looked at the screen. It displayed B1 stairwest confirmed 3:09. The time matched my watch within seconds. I stared at the tag on the wall, then at the scanner again. Maybe my hip bumped the trigger? Maybe the scanner's NFC range was too sensitive, and it read the tag through my jacket? That didn't make sense. The scanner required a deliberate tap. It wasn't passive. I decided to test it. I stepped back 2 full paces and held the scanner at my side, away from the wall. Nothing. I stepped closer. Still nothing. I raised the scanner and tapped the tag deliberately. It beeped again and logged a second scan. Now there were 2 entries, 3:09 and 3:10. That was worse, because now I had evidence of a ghost scan and a real scan. If management reviewed logs, it would look like I'd scanned twice or tried to cheat. I finished the patrol and returned to the security office. The supervisor on duty was remote. He didn't sit in the building. He just reviewed reports in the morning. I docked the scanner and printed the tour report. The printer spit out a slip listing the checkpoints and times. Everything looked normal except one detail. The basement checkpoint was listed 3 times. B1 stairwest 3:09. B1 stairwest 3:09. B1 stairwest 3:10. I stared at the paper until my eyes hurt. The scanner history on the device showed only 2 scans, 3:09 and 3:10. But the system report showed 3 entries, including a duplicate at 3:09. It was as if the building had scanned once, and then my device scanned twice. Or as if something wanted to make sure the record showed a pattern. I wrote a note in the logbook. Basement checkpoint recorded duplicate scans. Possible system error. I told myself that was the end of it. The next night, at 3:09 a.m., I went down to basement again. Not because I wanted to, but because the route required it and I didn't want another flag. The basement felt the same as always. Colder, emptier, with a faint smell of cleaning chemicals that never quite masked the metal and dust scent. The lights hummed. The corridor stretched away into darkness at both ends, with locked doors that had no signage. I walked toward the checkpoint and stared at it like it was a small device capable of personal betrayal. I stopped an arm's length away, scanner still on my belt. I watched the tag. Nothing happened. I exhaled slowly, feeling stupid for being nervous. Then the scanner beeped. In my belt. I didn't touch it. The beep sounded louder in the basement, bouncing off concrete. I unhooked the scanner immediately and looked at the screen. B1 stairwest confirmed 3:09. Exactly. My mouth went dry. I forced myself to do the same test again. I stepped back, away from the wall. No beep. I stepped closer. Still no beep. I lifted the scanner and tapped the tag. Beep. Now it logged 309 and 310 again, the same as the previous night. That's when I noticed something else. The air in the basement was quieter than normal, not silent, just empty in a way that felt like the building was listening. I keyed my radio, mostly to hear another human voice. Basement checkpoint scanned. I said, only static came back. That wasn't normal. The radio always hit the repeater in the stairwell. I tried again. Static. I looked down the corridor toward the generator room doors, and for the first time that night, I saw movement. Not a person stepping out, just a subtle change in shadow, like someone shifted weight behind a column. I stopped walking. The movement stopped too, like it had been synchronized with my attention. I forced myself not to stare. I turned slightly and walked back toward the stairs with my head forward, pretending I didn't see anything. Behind me, a soft beep echoed, the same confirmation beep as the scanner. But my scanner was in my hand, silent. The beep came from somewhere else. Concrete carried sound in a way that makes direction hard to judge, but it seemed to come from deeper in the basement corridor, near the checkpoint itself. Like something had scanned it again after I left. I kept walking. At the stairs, I stopped and looked back to spite myself. The corridor looked empty, but the feeling remained. I had left something behind that was now moving on its own. Back in the security office, I docked the scanner and printed the report. Again, the basement checkpoint was listed 3 times. This time, though, the report included a new line at the bottom that I hadn't seen before. Round verified, automated. Automated? That word made my stomach drop, because it implied the system believed the process could complete without a person. I checked the patrol software settings to see if automated verification existed. There was no such feature, no documentation, nothing. Yet the printer had produced a line like it was standard. At 3:22 a.m., the desk phone rang. Caller ID displayed an internal extension that didn't exist, 1 extra digit. I didn't answer. It rang twice and stopped. Then, a few seconds later, the office door handle turned gently. The door was locked. The handle turned again, patient. I stood up slowly and backed away from the door. From a hallway outside the office, a voice said, calm and close. Round complete. It sounded like me. Not a perfect imitation, but close enough that my skin prickled. Same tired tone, same speed, same habit of dropping the end of sentences slightly. I didn't speak. The voice continued quieter. You can sit now. I held my breath. The handle stopped turning. Footsteps moved away down the hallway, slow and measured. I rushed to the camera monitor and pulled up the hallway feed outside the security office. The feed showed an empty corridor. No person, no movement. But at the end of the corridor, near the stairwell door, the motion light flickered on briefly, like something passed through that area just long enough to trigger it. Then the light went off again. At 3:30 a.m., the patrol printer spit out another slip without prompting. This slip didn't list checkpoints. It listed a single message. Handover confirmed. 3:30. My mouth went dry. Handover confirmed meant 1 guard completed the route and transferred responsibility. But no one else was in the building with me. I'd signed in alone. The day guard wouldn't arrive until 6 a.m. I stared at that word, handover, until it stopped looking like English. I did the only thing I could. I waited. I did not leave the security office again that night. I told myself it was a rational choice because the patrol system already believed the round was complete. If the system was going to write fiction, I would at least avoid giving it more material. At 5:58 a.m., 2 minutes before day's shift, the basement door sensor beeped on the console, 1 quick beep, not an alarm. Then the patrol system updated on screen. B1 Stairwest confirmed 5:58. I was still in the office. My scanner was on the desk. No one entered the building. The cameras didn't show anyone. And yet the basement checkpoint had been confirmed right before shift change, like a final signature. When the day guard arrived at 6, he looked tired and casual. "Quiet?" he asked. I nodded. He logged in and glanced at the patrol report. He smiled slightly. "Nice," he said. "You finished early again." I stared at him. Again, I asked. He shrugged. "Yeah," he said. "This building's easy. System always shows a round done by 3:30 or so. I thought you were just efficient." My throat tightened. "How long has it been doing that?" I asked. The day guard thought for a moment. "Since before I started," he said. "Maybe months." I felt cold spread through my arms, because that meant it wasn't targeting me specifically. It wasn't reacting to my fear. It wasn't a one-off anomaly. It was routine. And that's what made it truly uncomfortable. The idea that a building can learn the shape of your job so well that it can produce the proof of your work. Without you, I quit a week later. Not because I believed in ghosts. Because I understood a simpler threat. When an accountability system starts generating its own confirmations, it stops proving you did your job. It starts proving you are unnecessary. And every time I hear an RFID scanner beep now, I think of that basement tag, confirming itself, like something down that was clocking in and out on a schedule, like it knew exactly when to be verified. Story 18 Hotel. Imagine a room keeps asking for housekeeping after it's been checked out. Imagine you're working the front desk at 1:55 a.m. The lobby is empty, the lights are too bright, and your brain is in that slow, half-alert state that comes from doing the same quiet tasks all night. Then the desk phone rings, and the caller ID shows a room number. Normal. You answer. A polite voice says, "Housekeeping." Also normal. Except housekeeping doesn't operate at 2 a.m. So you ask the room number. They give you one. You pull it up in the system. And you see it checked out yesterday. No guest, no active folio. No reason for that room's phone to be calling you at all. So what would you do? Because if you treat it like a prank, you might ignore a real person in trouble. But if you treat it like a normal guest request, you might be participating in something that's trying to use your routines as permission. This happened to me on a weekend overnight at a mid-sized city hotel. We were busy earlier in the evening. Weddings, parties, late check-ins. Then the building settled down. By 1 a.m., it felt like everyone had finally gone quiet. That's when the strange calls started. The first call came at 1:55. "Front desk," I said. A calm voice replied, "Housekeeping." Just that one word. Neutral tone, no panic, no emotion. "I'm sorry," I said, "defaulting procedure. Housekeeping is available in the morning. Can I help you with towels or toiletries?" A pause. Then towels. "Certainly," I said. "What room are you in?" 917. I pulled up 917 in the property management system. Room 917 was marked vacant/dirty, meaning the previous guest had checked out, and housekeeping hadn't serviced it yet. That status alone wasn't unusual at 2 a.m. Rooms can sit dirty overnight if staffing is low, but it meant something important. There should not have been a person in there, and the room phone should not have been actively routing calls. "Can you confirm the name on the reservation?" I asked carefully. The voice paused longer this time. Then it gave a full name, and it was the name of the guest who checked out. That made my stomach drop. I kept my voice steady. "Sir," I said, "I'm not seeing an active reservation under that name. Are you calling from inside the room now?" "Yes," the voice said simply. I looked at the desk phone display. Caller ID 917. I felt my mouth go dry. If it was a spoof, it was a very precise one that knew the exact checkout name. And I hadn't told anyone that name. I hadn't even spoken it aloud. "Okay," I said, buying time. "I can help. Do you need towels delivered? Or do you want to pick them up?" A faint exhale on the line. "Deliver? We can bring them in the morning," I said. "Or I can leave them at the door now. But I will need to verify." No, the voice interrupted gently. Not angry, just firm. Bring them now. I glanced toward the back office. The night auditor was inside working on reports. Our security guard was doing a perimeter check outside. At that moment, I was alone in the lobby. I can leave towels outside your door, I said carefully. I cannot enter the room. A pause. Then the voice said, You can? My skin prickled. I kept it procedural. For guest safety, we don't enter occupied rooms overnight unless there's an emergency. The voice sighed softly. It's not occupied, it said. I froze. It had corrected me using my system language. I'm going to place you on hold, I said, and I did. I walked quickly to the back office and told the night auditor, Kim, what was happening. Kim was older, calm, and not easily rattled. That night, her face went still in a way I recognized as controlled fear. What room? She asked. 917, I said. Kim didn't ask why that mattered. She opened a PMS screen and stared. Checked out yesterday, she said quietly. Yes, I replied. Kim leaned back slowly. Don't take anything up, she said. I wasn't going to, I said, but it knows the checkout name. Kim's jaw tightened. That's how it gets you, she said. What is it? I asked before I could stop myself. Kim looked at me, then looked away, like she regretted even acknowledging the question. It's a room that doesn't clear, she said. I stared at her. What does that mean? Kim spoke in a low voice, like she didn't want the building to hear details. Sometimes a room checks out in the system, she said, but something stays in the routine, the phone line, the service requests, the expectations. That's not an answer, I whispered. It's the only answer you'll get at 2 a.m., she replied. Don't respond. Don't argue. Don't negotiate. If it asks for service, you don't deliver service. I went back to the desk phone and took it off hold. Sir, I said, housekeeping will be available at 8 a.m. We can assist then. The line was silent. Then the voice said politely, I'll wait. The call ended. For a minute, nothing happened. Then the service request printer behind the desk chirped and printed a new ticket. Housekeeping request, RM 917, towels, 1:59 a.m. No employee ID, no guest name, but the request was officially logged. Kim came out of the office and looked at it. She tore it off and crumpled it. Don't print me work orders, she muttered, more to the air than to me. At 2:07 a.m., the desk phone rang again. Caller ID, 917. I didn't answer. It rang 8 times, stopped, then rang again. Still 917. Kim stared at the phone like she wanted to smash it. We let it ring. It stopped. Then the elevator chimed softly. We looked at the lobby camera. The elevator doors opened. Empty. The interior light was off, making the elevator a dark rectangle in a bright lobby. The floor indicator above the doors displayed 9, but the elevator was on the first floor. The indicator should have displayed 1. Kim's face went pale. Back office, she whispered. We stepped into the back office and shut the door. In the lobby, the elevator doors closed. We heard the soft roll of the elevator moving upward to the shaft. Faint vibration you can feel more than hear. Then the desk phone rang again. Even through the closed door, it was loud. Kim didn't move. I didn't move. The phone stopped. Then, faintly, the service corridor phone rang. Maintenance line. 3 rings. Stop. Then a soft sound that made my stomach turn. A keycard swipe against a reader. Not the front doors. Not a guest room. A staff door reader. Somewhere close enough that we could hear the beep. Kim held her breath. It's trying staff in trances, she whispered. We watched the camera grid from the back office monitor. The staff corridor camera showed an empty hallway leading to the service elevator. Fluorescent lights. Closed doors. No motion. Then, on the monitor, the image flickered. For 1 second, there was a person in the corridor. standing too close to the camera, facing it, like they knew where the lens was. Then the image snapped back to empty. I leaned closer. "Did you see?" I started. Kim cut me off. "Don't say it," she whispered. The lobby became quiet again. At 2:21 a.m., the printer chirped and produced another ticket. Housekeeping request, RM917, do not disturb, active. That wasn't a normal request. Guests don't request do not disturb. They flipped the sign. Yet the system was now marking 917 as occupied behavior, without an occupant. Then a third ticket printed immediately after. Housekeeping note, RM917, do not enter. Kim's hand shook slightly as she read it. "That's new," she whispered. I swallowed. "Isn't that what we want?" I asked for it not to want us to enter. Kim looked at me. "No," she said quietly. "That's it taking control of the boundary." Before I could ask what she meant, the desk phone rang again. This time, Kim picked up the handset without speaking, just listened. I watched her face tighten. After a few seconds, she set the handset down gently and said, "It said your name." My stomach dropped. "My name?" Kim nodded once. "It knows you answered the first time," she whispered. "Now it's attaching you to the room." At 2:34 a.m., the elevator chimed again. On the lobby camera, the elevator doors opened. Empty. Then, in the reflection of the elevator's polished interior wall, I saw a shape shift, like someone standing just out of direct view. The elevator door stayed open for an unnaturally long time. Kim whispered, "Don't look for too long." But the longer it stayed open, the harder it was not to watch. It felt like an invitation designed specifically for human curiosity, like the building knew the difference between refusing and ignoring. The doors finally closed. The floor indicator climbed. It stopped, and then the system, without us touching anything, logged a door vent. RM917 opened. No keycard ID, no staff override. Just opened. Kim's eyes widened. "Nobody opened it," she whispered. I felt cold spread across my arms. "Then why log it?" Kim's voice was tight. "Because it wants the system to believe it was accessed," she said. "And once the system believes it, staff will behave like it." At 2:38 a.m., housekeeping's internal line rang. On the desk phone, caller ID didn't display 917 this time. It displayed housekeeping desk. That line didn't ring overnight. There was no one on it. Kim stared at the display like it had crossed a line. The phone rang 3 times and stopped. Then the back office door handle turned gently. Testing. We froze. The handle turned again. Then a voice spoke softly through the door gap, calm and close. "Housekeeping." It sounded like a normal staff member. Tired, quiet, professional. Kim covered her mouth with her hand. The voice continued. "I have towels for 917, it said. A pause. Then, in a slightly different tone, one that sounded too familiar, the voice added, "Open the door." I felt my mouth go dry because the second tone sounded like me trying to mimic a calm professional voice. Kim whispered, "Don't answer." We stood still. The voice outside the door sighed softly, almost patient. Then it said my name again. Not shouted, not angry, like an instruction. I clenched my jaw shut. After a long minute, the handle stopped turning. Footsteps moved away across the lobby tile. Slow and careful. The elevator chimed once more. Doors opened, closed, then silence. At 6 a.m., day staff arrived. The building filled with normal sounds. Carts rolling, breakfast prep, voices in the hallway. The night felt like it retreated. Before I left, Kim pulled me aside and said, "Don't mention to anyone who wasn't here." "Why?" I asked. Kim looked at me and said, "Because if you make it a story, it becomes a request people will check. And checking is attention." I went home and tried to sleep. Later that afternoon, curiosity got me. I called a hotel from my personal phone and asked casually, if room 917 had been occupied the night before. The day agent laughed lightly. No, she said. 917 was vacant. Housekeeping serviced it this morning. I paused. Everything normal? I asked. She hesitated. Well, she said, it was weird. The do not disturb sign was hanging on the inside of the door. I felt my stomach drop. Inside, I repeated. Yeah, she said, like facing the room, like someone wanted to keep something in. Then she added, as if it was a small detail, and the room phone was off the hook. I hung up because that meant the calls didn't stop because we refused service. They stopped because the line stayed open. And now, whenever I hear someone say housekeeping in a quiet hallway, I remember that voice at the back office door. Not demanding, not angry, just patiently trying to get me to behave the way the job trained me to behave. Like all it needed was one normal response, one routine action. And once you do it, it knows exactly how to ask again